Okay, welcome to this video. We're going to be talking about graphing in this video, so we'll try to make it fairly painless. The first thing that I want you to do is rewrite the quadratic form to vertex form by completing the square. So you do need to make sure that you can do that. So we're just going to run through the steps here. So I gave you f of x on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and use it with f of x, but you're welcome to put a y there and then just change it back at the end. So f of, whoops, did not mean to do that. Let's get us a change, there we go. So in this case, the first thing that we would do would be to add the 20 over, and now we're going to take half of our b, square it, and add it to both sides. So that would be f of x plus 20, and half of negative 8 would be a negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. So I am going to be adding 16 to both sides. Now I'll go ahead and put it as a plus 16, but remember I said that you don't necessarily need to do that. You could just leave it as negative 4 squared. Now if you do leave it as a negative 4 squared, I would put it as plus a negative 4 squared. Now remember, this last value here will always be positive because it doesn't matter whether we're squaring a positive or a negative. We're always going to get a positive. So we're going to go ahead and simplify here on the left. And factor. So when I factor and I want to know what are factors of 16 that equal a negative 8, hopefully you're thinking a negative 4 and a negative 4, so that means I have two of those, which is why I can write it as the factor x minus 4 squared, okay? And since all we're doing is rewriting it into vertex form, I just need to move my 36 back over. And so in this case, the vertex would be 4, negative 36. So not one that I would probably have you graph, because obviously that would not fit on your graph. Okay? So making sure that you can rewrite it. Now that one I gave you there, I gave it with your A being 1. The next one, your A is 2 on. And this one it says sketch the quadratic function in standard form. Now remember, there is two options. So I'm going to do option number 1 is to complete square. Okay, so I'm going to do that one for this one. So again, the first step is to move your C over on there. And then again, remember, one of the things here is we cannot have this as a number other than 1. So my preference again is to divide off that 2. Now, if you'll remember though, when we do circles, we have to factor it out. So if that's the method that you prefer, you're definitely welcome to do that. And if I have room here, I might do that for you also. So now we've got it divided. Half of negative 2 is 1, or negative 1, and negative 1 squared, okay, would be a positive 1. Okay, now what I would do is go ahead and write this as 2 over 2. And therefore this side is going to be y minus 1 over 2. Make sure I got that right. Okay. And then I'm going to factor x minus 1 squared. Okay. And now I'm gonna leave that. I didn't take this and break it apart because I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I have y minus 1 equals 2 x minus 1 squared, and then move your 1 over. Okay, which in this case my vertex then becomes a 1, 1. Okay, Now, that's option 1. Again, option 2 would be to do the negative b over 2a, or again doing the factoring. So I'm going to do this one. I think I'm going to go ahead and just do it by showing you the factoring out, and then I'll do another one by the negative b over 2a. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to do it by factoring out that 2, just so that if you are one who likes to do that, you've seen it done. Okay, so again, our first step still is to move the 3 over. That piece I would just always do. I just think that piece is the easiest. And then here I'm going to factor out a 2. Okay, now when you factor out that 2, now when I do half of 2, I get 1, and 1 squared is, or a negative 1, and 1 squared, negative 1 squared is 1. But what you have to remember is here, okay, I really added a 2 to this side. So I must add a 2 to this side, okay? So that is going to give me y minus 1 equals 2, and then this becomes the x minus 1 squared, and again, move it over. And yes, this is sometimes easier. You look at comparing the amount of work, although I did skip a couple of steps there. But again, my fear is always that kids forget to do this multiplication here. But if you're good with that, then either method works for me. Again, or if you wanted to do the negative b over 2a. Okay, so the next one we're going to do, and this is actually sketch the graph, so I guess I need to back up a little bit. Okay, so on this one, when I go to sketch the graph, again, my vertex is at 1, 1. Now remember, it opens up, so I know I'm not going to have any x-intercepts. And, you know, if you were doing this, what would be really nice is if you would say over, when you do x-intercept, something like vertex is 1, 1, and opens up, therefore no x-intercepts, okay? Or again, you could solve it, you'd see you'd get imaginary numbers, and you could say no x-intercepts. Our y-intercept, again, in standard form, if you go back to it, if you remember, it's always the c value. Now, you could definitely take and sub in here a 0, but you should get the 3 either way. Okay, so I would always go back to the standard form in this case. So I have 0, 3, so I'm going to put that about right here, and then over here. And then probably what I would do is come in and sub in another number, like maybe a 1, not 1, 2. 2 minus 1 squared plus 1. So that would give me what? 3? No, that doesn't look right. 2 minus 1. What did I choose? 2 minus, oh, I meant 1. Yeah, 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Times 2 is 3. Oh, I already got that point. I don't need that. Maybe choose 2 or something like that. 3. Put in another number. So 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4, times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 10. So it's going to get me up there at 3. I'm going to be at 10. So you could fit that on your graph, definitely, because I told you we would go to 10s. So it's definitely going to come up real quick. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. Okay, next one, again, we're just going to sketch the graph. Again, it's already in vertex form. So I know my vertex here is going to be a negative 1, 4. Okay, so I'm at a negative 1, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1. Okay, it's negative, so it opens down. So I know I am going to have some x-intercepts. Remember, if x-intercepts, then we are going to let y equals 0. So when I move that over and then divide, and then square root both sides, and move the 1 over. And I know I'm running through this very quickly, but by now you should be able to handle that. So in this case, you could write it as a -1 plus the square root of 2 and a -1, whoops, I don't know why I put that comma there, minus the square root of 2. But you are going to need the decimal values. So the first one up there would be roughly 0.40 and a -2.40. And so again, I'm going to go in and estimate that. So we're going to have a number somewhere about there and there. The other thing is I could do my y-intercept. Okay, so we're going to let x be 0. And so I get a -2 plus 4, so y is 2. So I have 0, 2. So 0, 2, which then also means I'm going to have my reflection point, and there's enough to get me I'm kind of off the points, but anyway, there's my graph. Okay, you will be asked to dot in the axis of symmetry here, which would be x equals a -1. Also state the domain and the range. Remember, your domain is a -infinity to a positive, and your range in this case would be from a -infinity up to 4, or you could say y is less than or equal to 4, either way. Okay, it is getting long on the video, so I'm not going to take much time here. I just want to mention, if you are graphing inequalities, then you graph, again, the quadratic, okay, or parabola if you want to say that. So go ahead and graph your parabola like what we did before. Then remember, determine if solid or dotted. Okay, remember solid is the equals, dotted is just the greater than or less than. And then 3, always test 0, 0. Okay, always test your 0, 0. Okay, and that doesn't matter whether it's in standard form or vertex form. So you're going to do just what we did above, just add in 2 steps.